Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. And tonight I want to welcome Tim Durling and Michael Ladano to the show. This is it. This is part 3 of our Helix series, Rocket Science. So without any further ado, let's get started.
Throw those horns up. It's time for Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. And yes, there you go. Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. And tonight is part 3 in our Helix series. Part 3, we call it Rocket Science. What can I say? This episode, we are looking at the 2000s. Now, you know, Mr. Ladano's got his program, grab a stack, like in the shirt. Show him your stack, Michael.
Oh, well, that's not something that a gentleman would show, but there's my shirt.
But you know what I mean. You brought all those CDs. He's got a lot of
that stack.
God,
my goodness, what was I thinking? This is just the part 3
Look
stack,
at that.
of course.
That's part 3, ladies and gentlemen.
But Mike, I
different stacks.
thought they only had one song.
He's got multiple stacks.
Apparently, Tim, they must have a few songs.
Yeah, maybe 2.
So anyway, we're looking at the 2000s today, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, the 2000s starts off, in 2000 wait a minute.
We left off in 2003.
Yeah.
So we're about to hit 2004, which was a big year for Helix, the 30th anniversary.
Right. So 2000 okay. So our first, what are we going to start off with, Michael? Because we're going to since he is so hardcore, we're going to let
Tim's
him
got Tim's got the book. You've got the Volmer book that came out in 2004.
I thought it was 2005.
I thought it was 2004.
It's 2005.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
It's 2005. I've got all this 2004 related stuff here.
But Mike does have a lot of stuff I don't have.
I've got this, and we can't get into the Helix comeback of the 2000s without talking about the Trailer Park Boys. It's critical to the story.
Okay. Well, should we start off there?
I think we should.
Let's do it.
There's a Canadian TV program out of Nova Scotia that started off around the turn of the millennium. It's about 3 dirtbags that live in a trailer park, but, you know, they love heavy metal music. And in one notable episode, the character of Bubbles is talking about the merits of Rush because he wants to go see Rush in concert. And Ricky's kind of poo-pooing the idea, saying, Rush, they're not as good as Helix. And the notable line of dialogue here is, there's the from Helix.
Yeah.
The notable line of dialogue was, Helix have good lyrics, like give me an R-O-C-K, and then the crowd yells rock really loud. Now that's a fucking concert. Rush have songs about how trees are talking to each other and how different parts of your brain works. And that kind of put Helix in the spotlight a bit. Trailer Park Boys helped Helix become a thing again, and that coincided with the 30th anniversary, for which they reunited a heck of a lot of members of the band for this concert.
Yeah, I got to
put out this documentary, this excellent documentary.
There's that logo. Thank God it's there.
It's the logo, and the logo is here too. Now, this 30th anniversary concert reunited the original members of the band that had never been recorded on vinyl. This is pre-first album. It reunited from the classic Capitol Years lineup, Greg Fritz Hines. Unfortunately, Paul Hackman was passed away. And at this point in their history, Daryl Gray, the other classic era member, the bassist, and Brian were no longer in speaking terms. And the original lineup here, Bruce Arnold, who's actually the founder of the band, not Brian. Bruce Arnold is the founder of the band, the drummer. Ron Watson on guitar, the late, great Don Simmons on keyboards, and Keith Burt Zerbrigg on bass, who is noted for always playing live in a tux. And, you know,
which one of those guys do you have an acoustic bass from?
Don Simmons.
You have an acoustic? Is that the acoustic bass that I've seen?
The one that you've made fun of me for playing on the beach in a windstorm. Yes.
Well, I find it interesting.
I was posing. That was all pose.
Okay. All right.
Throwing shapes.
So anyways, they did this great concert with the current members of the band, Rainer and Cindy Weichman, Jim Lawson, Jeff Stan Fountain, and, of course, Glenn Archie Gamble on drums. All these guys reunited with the classic members of the band. And I should also mention Leo Nybedek, and, of course, the great Brian Durner on drums. There was another bassist in there, Mike Uzlak, who was actually a missing person at the time. He was a missing person for about 30 years.
You mean like in the band Missing Persons?
As in, nobody knew where he was.
Nobody knew where he was.
I'm joking.
There were bank accounts opened for his residuals for Helix that went, unclaimed for decades. But anyway,
Wow.
so those were the only guys that weren't there. Daryl Gray, estranged from Brian at that time, Mike Uzlak, missing person at that time, and of course the late Paul Hackman, who, he was killed tragically in 93, I think 92, when we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what Tim has in terms of CDs, but Helix put out 2 compilations and 1 studio album.
Yeah,
there they are.
So basically, Mike, would you say one of these is the US? This is the US counterpart
This
of
is
this.
the US.
And the reason that this has more, recognizable songs, so to speak, is because they could license them from capital EMI in Canada. So this is called Rockin' You for Over 30 Years. This is called Never Trust Anyone Over 30. And they both feature our good friend, the Cat in the Hat, on the back here. Same, because, and I got to say, Brian posed in way too many pictures with this face. Like, what,
and goofy hats.
Either excited or he's surprised. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, but if you around this time, every picture of him, especially if he's meeting somebody, I don't know.
Well,
I'm a big fan. That's why I've got all these CDs.
The last time we talked about, they've had multiple great best ofs, and we touched on that the last episode. But these were either one of these on Razor and Tie, because I know there was one we talked about.
Just the Deep Cuts one is the
just
only
Deep Cuts was on Razor and Tie. Okay,
this one's on EMI, and this one's on Dirty Dog,
which is their own.
My copy signed by Fritz and a Rainer. And the American one had that weird cover of Delilah, Tom Jones. It also had that song, I Want to Be Stoned, or was that on the Canadian version?
It's on the American. It's not on the Canadian version. Look, there's a lot of songs in common, but there are a lot that aren't.
That's kind of a song, I Want to Be Stoned, that I think you have to be stoned to enjoy. It also has I'm Alive Frankenstein, which was from Brian Vollmer's 1999 solo album. We didn't get into this last time, but a lot of these songs ended up on the next Helix studio album. Yeah, Rockin' in My Outer Space.
Let's face it, though. I mean, at this point, it's Brian and a revolving cast, so there's not a lot of difference, right?
Correct. Not necessarily the guys that were in the live band played on the albums.
Yeah.
That becomes more prevalent as we go forward. But on this particular When Pigs Fly studio album, the song Stumblin' Blind, I believe King of the Hill, and maybe just those 2, they ended up on this studio album, Rockin' in My Outer Space.
Yeah. Not a bad front cover, but a really cheap looking back cover.
Mine's
signed. But not a bad album.
Yeah.
Not a bad album. My copy's signed by Brian, as most of them are.
I wish there was a picture of the band inside, but it's a good album, I think. It's just that, you know how in the 90s, a lot of bands kind of took on a grunge motif in order to survive. Kiss did it. A lot of bands did, and this has the remnants of that era. You can really hear sort of an alterna Helix sound that you don't hear on albums before or since.
Yeah,
I don't mind that. I like
not the worst offender for that type of thing.
No,
but there is kind of a. This isn't one I reach for a lot, but it's not bad.
I liked it a lot more then when it came out than I do now, because they've come out with superior albums since.
Yeah. See, I think that this was a period. There was about 10 years where I was just out of the Helix loop altogether, and this is right in the middle. But I had no idea that, I didn't have any of these albums. And I think a lot of the problem with, as you said, the members of on the albums weren't the members in the touring band. I mean, Brian had to have musicians that were local.
That's right.
Pretty much,
And the one member of the band, I believe it was Jim Lawson, eventually came down to distance. He was up in North Bay or something like that, and it just wasn't practical anymore.
Yeah.
But
did this album have any kind of impact at all?
No. I'm afraid not, Grant. No. A lot of the songs, to their credit, they played a lot of the songs live on that 30th anniversary DVD. But I don't believe any of those songs remain in their set list, and I don't think they remained in the set lists on the tour immediately following either, which is unfortunate. like I said, it's definitely a different Helix. It's definitely an alterna Helix by comparison to the rock and roll good time bar band that we're used to. I don't mind it. Like, I like Carnival of Souls by Kiss. Bands did what they had to do, and that's the album that they made. They haven't made one like that since. So be it.
Yeah,
in a changing landscape, what do? You've got to make money. You've got to reach that audience if you can. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes these things take off. Sometimes they don't.
And sometimes they become kind of cult favorites.
Right. Because don't you think that the Kiss album kind of has a cult favorite? Because there are some people, okay, with that record, either they like that record or they just despise it.
Not a lot of in between, though.
There's no in between.
Funny you should mention that, because I just had a conversation today about that record with another fan who actually liked it. So, we're few and far between, but we're here.
Well, the hardcore... I'm just saying.
I would say the Helix album is that divisive.
It's not that divisive because not enough people have heard it.
It's not that known, but it doesn't sound, if you put it in, if you mix songs from it, say, with a bunch of other Helix songs, they don't stand out like a sore thumb. It's not like Dawkins' Shadow Life, which is junk. Anyway, I trash that album any chance I get.
I'm just surprised on the album cover. I think Rockin' in My Outer Space, I don't know. It's really a horrible title, but the font's bad. And there's 2 Helix logos on the front. I think you only need 1 Helix logo, but whatever. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I just think a lot of it, this just wasn't the time for Helix. Let's just say that.
It wasn't the time for Helix. And Brian, a lot of this was DIY. I mean, he was doing the hustle to keep the band going, to keep product out there. And he's done a pretty good job at that.
Probably all self-promotion. He's probably all of his own money. They don't have a major label.
Yeah. On the other hand, you could end up making more because, you're not losing that much of a cut out of them. I don't know. So what's the next thing we want to talk about, Mike, the book? Because that's kind of the next thing I've got.
I guess around the same time, it says 2003 here in my handwriting, but around the same time, Helix played Sweden Rock. And they released one single on iTunes, Rock You, 2003, live from Sweden Rock. And I think it's the only thing recorded by this particular lineup, was never released physically. So the only physical copy that exists is that CDR that I burned. And then, I guess Volmer's book would be next. And that he hand delivered that to people that lived in London, Ontario, that ordered that book. He went out and hand delivered it.
I'll be damned, really.
Yeah.
Now this
impressive.
My impression of this, and Mike and I have talked about this is a great book.
Yeah.
And not only is it the story of Helix, it's a real story about how hard it is to make it in Canada, because you've got a small population and there's a little ribbon that runs from east to west, and you just keep crisscrossing, and you
there's
play
a lot of dry spots on that ribbon.
Dry spots on there and unpredictable weather. And some people would say just driving through Northern Ontario is enough to now I really stress that I like this book. I enjoy reading it. I wish to God that Brian had a proofreader for this, because the spelling mistakes and the grammar in this are atrocious. And I notice things like that's one thing I could always do was spell. Couldn't do like long division and math to save my friggin' life. But spelling and grammar stick out to me. Drives me nuts when people use should have instead of should have, and that stuff's all over here. Don't let that throw you. If I can read through it, so can you. It's a great story. It's a great rock and roll survival tale. Brian pulls no punches. There's a lot of cool pictures in here. I mean, here's a couple guys in the band with some girls and Kevin DuBrow.
Yeah, Richard Pryor's in there.
Richard Pryor's in there. There's Brett Durner with Rick Emmett. There's Brian with his parents. Let me find the one here. There's one that Grant will enjoy because of the long series that we did. Talk amongst yourselves whilst I find it. It's here somewhere. I don't have anything planned, but no, it is a great read. I mean, they talk about playing here, the Hilltop Pub in Fredericton. Now that's about an hour away from me. And my wife and I just met our kids for supper there last week. The Hilltop Pub still exists.
I'll be damned.
Fredericton. There they are. Here they are with Styx in Halifax.
There's
that's like
Keith Burt Zurbrigg there, I believe.
Is Tommy Shaw in that, or is it John? Can't tell. Is that pre-Tommy Shaw?
That'd probably be.
No, Tommy Shaw's in this picture.
Oh, is he?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, here. So this is the one I was talking about. Grant, there they are with Miles Goodwin.
Wilmer with the mustache.
And that's in Point St. Clair, Quebec. So anyway, I mean, they've toured with everybody, and there's stories with, them touring in Europe. There's a great story about them opening for Ian Gillan in 1990, and Mike knows a lot about that because it was a special.
See it on my YouTube channel. Yep.
Yeah.
Did they,
so it is a great read.
Did Brian talk? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say it was around this time. I actually saw them in concert for the first time. I saw them opening for Alice Cooper in 2006. And they played a short set, but it was good. It was good.
I know you mentioned that he talks about how hard it was to make it in Canada. Did he touch on how hard it was to make it into the United States?
Oh yeah,
for sure. I mean, they
because I think it's fascinating because if you listen to Martin, when Martin Popoff talks about it, he says a lot of these Canadian bands would stay in Canada, and the ones that would have more success is because they'd leave Canada, go to LA, and transplant themselves. The
Helix never did that.
Helix never did that.
Rush never did either, but
yeah, there's always exceptions, right? Rush never did. Triumph never did. And April Wine never did. But the thing about even Rush and Triumph were right in Toronto, and April Wine were based out of Montreal during their biggest years. Helix were in Kitchener.
Maybe
Kitchener
that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
London, Kitchener. So they weren't in the record company's face, and even they got on a lot of big U.S. tours, but. Yeah, no, there is a lot of talk. There's talk about how they weren't on a major label anymore, and it's a survival tale, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this is a good time for me to mention this. This is part 3 in our series. Yeah. Check down in the links for part 1 and part 2. So make sure you check those out because why not? We're trying to be all inclusive here. So we're
talking about stuff that albums and CDs nobody talks about. So
yeah, you're going to see physical copies of them all.
All right. So I'm watching my time. What's next?
Get Up, the tour that Tim and I saw.
They did the title song from that EP when I saw them. Great song. It became a staple.
Yeah, and
very classic Helix sounding. That's a terrible cover. They don't use their logo.
You'll also notice
bad move.
Heavy Metal Love? Huh? Yes.
Yeah, right.
They re-recorded Heavy Metal Love because of the Trailer Park Boys thing. That was the song that was in the movie soundtrack, but they couldn't use the original Capitol Records recording of Heavy Metal Love. They had to re-record the song to be used in the Trailer Park Boys movie, which they did. Here it is. These songs are all great. They all ended up on the next album, The Power of Rock and Roll. Now, that's an album cover I like.
A little bit better on the cover art. Although why, Mike, do they use the whole Kiss Chikara thing on the back cover?
I don't know the answer to that question, but you can see it there, the Kiss Chikara. I don't know what it's really called, but anyway, that's what Kiss have used.
This is, to me, when I heard this, I was like, this is more like it. This is what I want to hear out of a Helix album. And this actually got distributed by EMI in Canada. So, I mean, they would sign, one-time distribution deals and actually get it out there in stores. Brian signed this.
See, I like that better for the cover. Big Helix logo, the flames. I like that. But what
I like this album. I played it today. There's a song in here, Nickels and Dimes. Yeah. I remember when I saw them at the CD release party, for which I have the ticket stubs. The CD release party for The Power of Rock and Roll, I shouted for Nickel and Dimes, and some other guy in the audience is like, "Yeah, that song rules." So there are tunes on here that if they were still played live today, people would love them. Another one that jumped out at me was, Fill Your Head with Rock. Do you know the story behind that, Tim? Sweden Rock. Kim Mitchell had that song, Fill Your Head with Rock. And so Volmer decided, hey, I'm going to write a song called Fill Your Head with a Rock because we're going to
Kim
Sweden
Mitchell
Rock.
actually put out a double CD compilation, which I wish, that's one of those things I wish I'd have bought when it first came out because now it's hundreds of dollars.
It's actually a CD DVD. It has a Rockland Wonderland
Right, it's got the Keita Ballad show on it, right?
Yeah. But that's a whole other
So on this record, did they get signed back to EMI?
No, I just
what's the story on that?
Distribution deal. I don't think that,
Because in the U.S. it says Paris.
Yeah, Paris Records distributed a lot of their stuff in the U.S. because they were like a hard rock metal independent label, and Brian's done a lot of stuff with them. So,
incidentally, a lot of this stuff was only ever issued on CD. There's never vinyl. at that point.
So far.
But this next release is one that, well, I mean, you got to have it for the collection.
A Heavy Mental Christmas. Now, there's a newer version of this, I think, that has more songs on it with a white cover.
Right, there is.
And that one's available on vinyl.
And I think I'm missing one song because I think there is a song that comes out later in the story that would be on a Christmas album, but I think there's an additional one.
Right.
This does have an original on here, I believe, which is, I think, called Christmas Time Is Here Again. Is that the original one?
Yeah, that's the last song. But this
is that an original or is that the Beatles cover?
No, it's definitely not the Beatles cover because I have that one.
Although he does do Wonderful Christmas Time by McCartney. So he does a song by a Beatle. Now, this is also getting into this. I was just talking to Mike about this. I mean, Grant, look at that. Who are these guys?
Well, I'll tell you who they are.
Well, the one guy in the middle's got his mouth open. I've seen that before.
This is not personal. Who are they? That doesn't look like Helix. It looks like Brian Vollmer with a bunch of guys.
Hey, listen, when I saw those guys live, they worked their way into my heart.
I'm sure.
The short hair, guys with short hair don't look like they should be in Helix.
Hey, that's Rick Van Dyke and Brent Ned Neeme.
I'm sure they're good guys. Guys, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but
it doesn't look rock and roll.
I'll just shut up now.
Now, another thing I would like to say, though, is something else Tim and I were talking about offline, is that the guys in the picture, the guys on the album, the guys on the stage were often different guys. So on the album here, yes, Rick Van Dyke does play lead guitar. Paul Fonseca does play bass. Ned Neeme does play drums. But we also get on lead guitar, Steve, and I'm going to butcher this name, Steve Georgia Kalopoulos. I'm sure
I think it's Georgia Kalopoulos.
Georgia Kalopoulos.
And Gord Pryor from Blue Bones.
Gord produced this record too.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is you get Sean Kelly plays on a lot of the later stuff. You get a lot of guys that aren't necessarily in the band playing on the albums. That's fine. I don't care.
And co-writing.
Co-writing too.
Yeah.
Now, I got to be honest with you.
There was a bit of would you say, Mike, at least there was a little bit of an identity crisis?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Things are about to get a lot better.
Yes, things are about to get a lot better.
We're getting to the point where Helix came back onto my radar in a big way.
I don't know how it happened exactly, but somehow Brian Vollmer reconnected with Brent Durner, the doctor, and Fritz Hines, the drummer.
Yeah.
Daryl Gray was still not on board. They got Sean Kelly, the current Coney Hatch, Lee Aaron wizard on bass.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And that was the beginning of the Sean Kelly era of Helix, which continues to this day because he continues to write and play guitar on Helix albums to this day. But anyway, that was the start of it. Sean Kelly joined on bass. And I believe Jim Lawson was still in the lineup on second guitar, if I'm not mistaken, for a while. But
not when I saw them.
Not when you saw them. Then
they had the Duckman by this time.
The Duckman, Caleb Duck, a local guy. He was a fantastic guitar player too, very versatile. He came into the picture right around the time of, I guess you would call this sort of like a comeback album.
Oh,
Vagabond Bones.
Look at it. I want this one on vinyl. I want them to put this out on vinyl. That's a classy looking late period Helix album. They're using the logo.
It looks better. The cover looks better.
Yeah,
this looks like
a Helix album.
This looks like the follow up to Back for Another Taste.
Yeah, that's what this looks like. I was going to say that.
And it's good. And it's good.
I had the pleasure of talking to Brian Vollmer. I interviewed him for radio. That interview is on my channel. If somebody wants to look it up. Brian would talk all day if he had the time. Super easy to talk to. And he talked about how the band eventually got back together. So 4/5 of that classic lineup are back together now. I saw them on this tour. They were fantastic. Met the entire band. I got the whole CD signed.
Daryl Gray was back in the band by this time.
And to Daryl was great. Talked to him, talked to them all after the show, and started to went on planethelix.com, started to catch up on a lot of these CDs that I was missing. But to their credit, there are 9 songs on this album. They did 3 of them when I saw them in concert. They did the opener, the Animal Side Won't Be Denied. They did the title song, Vagabond Bones, and they did what was the other one? I think it was Make 'Em Dance.
That was the single at the time. Make 'Em Dance was a video single at the time.
Yeah, Make 'Em Dance actually got some airplay. This album did get distribution in Canada by Universal Music of Canada.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was an upturn for them. It's a great album.
Yeah.
If you're going to start, I think, my opinion, with any of this latter-day stuff, if you're not going to get a compilation, get this one.
Vagabond Bones.
Okay.
I'm going to point out the song "Best Mistake I Never Made." I mean, it's more reminiscent of the Business Doing Pleasure kind of era.
Very
It's
much
got that
so.
acoustic upbeat.
It reminded me of That Day Is Going to Come. But I remember when I talked to Brian, at the time I did an oldie show on Saturday night, and that's really the only place that parts of the interview would fit on our format. But I did play one new song, and I was telling him about, this is the kind of station we are. And he says, I think I've got just the song for you. And he sent me Best Mistake I Never Made. So I played that on the air.
Nice.
And it's autobiographical for Brian, if you read his book.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of another Canadian band, the Killer Dwarfs.
That's right. Russ Dwarf
does a duet with Brian on
Hungover, but still hanging in. Brian,
It's good.
I'm just going to point out Brian's knack for a good song title. Like he seems to really come up with a lot of very catchy song titles. Hungover, but still hanging in being one of them.
Yeah. When the bitters got the better of you.
That's another great one.
Yeah. And even if the expression's been used, you think about it, you go, I don't think anyone's actually written a song over it. So he grabbed it and went with it.
Yeah, very much so. I agree.
So if you can hear the excitement pick up in my voice, it's because, this is the band that I started listening to way back when. They're back.
Excellent.
And then they followed it up with something that I wish I could get more excited about, but Mike will probably.
Well, I'm not sure which comes next, but I think it's the Skin in the Game EP.
Oh, well, that wasn't what I was going to say, but go ahead.
I think it's this. I think it's the Skin in the Game EP.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Is it this?
Yes.
Okay. Smash
so
Hits
2010,
Unplugged.
they put Smash Hits Unplugged. They do an unplugged album, and there's nothing wrong with the song selection. It just sounds like a kitchen party, and I never listened to it. Now, the funny thing is, the song I really like on here, because I don't want to hear acoustic versions of The Kids Are All Shaken. I just don't want to hear it. But they do a song on here. It's the second to last track. It's called Touch of Magic. And it's by a guy named James Leroy. Now, the only reason I know this song is because I work in radio and I did a Canadian oldies show. And this song would come up once in a while. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, well, I actually know what this song is. And I like their version of it. Other than that, it's an unplugged album. Plenty of people do them, but I've just never been crazy about it. It did get distributed by EMI. I think I do remember seeing this in stores, and I understand it's, the idea is to catch someone at Walmart that, this song, I know this song, I know this song. I don't know. I'm just not big on it.
I couldn't disagree more. I love this album.
That's good.
I love this album.
Okay,
and
there you go.
It's more than that. But maybe for Tim, it's also different on the East Coast because this has a very Celtic vibe. And maybe on the East Coast, you guys are getting kind of sick of hearing stuff with the Celtic vibe mixed in. I don't know. But that comes from Daryl Gray. When he was off from Helix, he would be doing all this kind of Celtic stuff in the bars. Yeah. So on this album, Daryl Gray plays not just bass, but 6 and 12 string guitars, mandolin, keyboards, string arrangements, percussion, washboard, bodhran, harmonica, and countless studio hours. Then we have Sean Kelly on guitar, dobro, and banjo. We have Wendy Wright on fiddle and a whole bunch of background vocals. So Tim's right that it does have sort of a kitchen party attitude, but I guess in my part of Ontario, we don't have kitchen parties that sound like this. So I am opposite from Tim.
When you say that, it reminds me of the Beach Boys Party album from 1965, where it's them they invited a whole bunch of people into the studio, really. It's all pretty much fake, but people were just hanging out, having pizza, drinking. I don't know what they're all up to, but it's kind of like that, where it's kind of like I haven't heard this, so that's what describe that. That's what makes me think of.
I need to listen to it some more, apparently. But the thing that Mike was going to talk about came up 2011, and I actually kind of like it. I mean, it's just a little EP, Skin in the Game.
It's got some neat stuff on it. William Tell Overture.
Yeah, they started doing that live.
Who would have thought?
That on the Vagabond Bones tour.
Yeah.
They would wind up like that. But I like the song Skin in the Game. I like Champagne Communist. Like it's It's cool. I mean, it's only got 5 songs on it.
Angelina is the standout, Tim. To me,
Yeah, it's a
Angelina.
good poppy song. Yep. Again, also, another guy that co-writes apparently or occasionally around this time. Grant, you familiar with The Pursuit of Happiness?
Oh, I love them.
Mo Bird
produced the
co-writes-
first 2 records.
Yeah,
Mo
Mo Bird co-wrote Angelina, and he also, I think, he co-wrote a song on Vagabond Bones. I think
You're right. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think he's also written with Kim Mitchell as well, hasn't he?
he has on Oral Fixations. Yeah, the song a lot of songs on Vagabond Bones. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 9 songs on Vagabond Bones. So I mean, that guy's got a knack for a,
Oh
catchy
God!
song, right?
Oh my God! Yeah,
He knows what he's doing as far as that goes.
Lundgren loves that band.
Yeah.
Does he?
Oh, he totally
he produced.
He
Yeah, he
produced
produced.
2 records.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I don't own any. I'm not a Pursuit of
Oh
Happiness
well,
guy,
if you
but-
listen to them, they sound kind of like Utopia from the '80s to some degree.
Sort of power pop, isn't it?
It's
When you said
very
it, Grant?
power pop. Very power pop.
Growing up in Canada on Much Music, we were familiar with them, I think, about 3 years before their first album came out, because they had an independently produced video for I'm an Adult Now.
with the short
Much
hair.
Music played that all the time.
Then they re-recorded that for the first album,
Yeah.
and it's different. It's
Yeah.
not like the independent released one. But
I knew the original version better.
Yeah. Because I mean, that was a staple on Much Music.
The short hair,
Anyways.
Mo Berg.
Yeah. So the next thing to talk about is 2012, and it's another one of these thin little CD cases, but this came out. Yeah. Best of 1983 to 2012, which is a 21-song album, which is pretty good span of their career. Now, I do have to say, they are re-recorded versions because, the whole licensing from Capital EMI, they're not bad re-recordings.
I think, and if I'm not mistaken, because I did an A/B test when I reviewed this, I think Heavy Metal Love is the version from Get Up.
That was, why wouldn't they use that? They've already gone through the trouble of re-recording it. But this has a really cool mix of songs. I've really gotten to love, because I've seen them do it in concert, Danger Zone. I really like that song.
That's from the B-Sides album that we talked about on part 2 of the
But that's
Helix.
popped up now a few times. And actually last year or the year before, vinyl version of it came up, but it's only got 10 songs on it.
Yeah.
As opposed to 21. But
it's red.
But this is on, I believe this is US, because it's on Deadline, which is like sort of like Cleopatra. And around the same time, Mike alluded to it, this song that didn't make their Christmas album. All I Want for Christmas is the Leafs to win the cup.
And this means nothing to anybody who doesn't know hockey.
Yeah. But I do have to ask, Mike, because I don't follow hockey. Since this, in the 11 years since this song came out, have they?
Tim, they haven't won the cup since the 1960s.
60s, so that hasn't changed.
No.
Look at that. Is it like mint green vinyl?
No, it's a darker green than
yours
it's looking on my camera.
Oh, okay, because mine looks green.
That looks
Mine's green, but I'm seeing it more as like a bluey green. But my shirt behind me that looks like almost the identical color. That's a deep Kelly green. So it's not the same.
Colors are interesting, Mike. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
Bought this when I saw them in 2016. An excellent double bill with Honeymoon Suite. That was a great concert.
Now there was one other new song on this called Axe to Grind, co-written by Sean Kelly, and it's a good rocker too.
Yeah.
But All I Want for Christmas is at least to win the cup. It got played on the radio a little bit here. Brian Vollmer did the video with his face painted blue and white, like on the artwork.
The single cover, yeah.
And he's cheering for that team so hard, and I just felt so sad because my wife's a Leafs fan, and I go through this every year, Grant, and I'm going through it right now. This is our year. This is our year. And I'm going through it right now. And I played the song earlier so I could prepare for the show. I closed the door shut so she couldn't hear it. So I didn't want to hear about it being our year again.
Oh my.
So the next thing to come out is a proper studio album, I think. Quite a
really good one. A really
in
good one.
2014, Bastard of the Blues.
Yeah. I think this is a fine album.
Really good.
I really like it. And Daryl Gray sings lead vocals on one of these tunes. I can't remember which one.
When the Love Is Gone, it's a ballad, and it's really, really good. Yeah, like he's good. And this live shot of Brian on stage, I've never met him, but I know I'm a Facebook buddy of him, Alan Sikowski. I'm not saying his name right, but this was actually taken in early 2014 when Helix played another show with Honeymoon Suite in Moncton, which isn't far from where I live. I could not get to the show because it was one of the worst days for freezing rain that I'd ever seen. Like the roads were just a bottle, so I couldn't even get out of my driveway. Never mind drive to Moncton, which is a shame. But yeah, this is a good album. This has lots of Sean Kelly co-writes on it too.
Metal at Midnight is so trademark Sean Kelly. He has such a knack for writing a strong riff that evokes a certain era, the 80s.
It's so old school in the best possible way.
Sean, I'm talking to you. Sean,
is Sean playing on this? I see
he always plays a little. He always plays a little.
Because he's not listed on the personnel.
No, he's not. And it should be pointed out now that Brent Durner had left the band for the second time or third time, I guess. And Chris Julke, who's still in the band today, Chris Julke on guitar now. Yeah. With Caleb's Duckman Duck.
So there's still been a lot of personnel changes, but it's been a little bit more solid.
Yeah. We've got the core members now. We've got Daryl and Fritz. It's basically just the guitar players that have been in flux. But Julke's been there for a long time now.
Yeah, he seems solid. Yeah. And Fritz, when was it that he hurt himself? He fell off
the roof and had a severe. I think he fractured his skull. And I'm not sure what year that happened. I'm going to say it's around the time of like the Eat Sleep Rock era, as I'm going to say around that.
I think so. Yeah.
But it should be mentioned that Fritz has made a recovery, and the guy's a champion.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know about you, Mike. The next thing I have is a blue cover.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Now, here's the story, is that they did around, I think it was the Skin in the Game EP. They were supposed to be doing an album called It's Not Rocket Science, It's Rock Science, or something like that. It's not one or the other. They didn't use that title, but they did use it on this.
Yeah, I picked this up when I saw them with Honeymoon Suite in 2016. Just you like to support the band. I got pictures with them then too. Rocket Science. Now this is another compilation, but it's pretty like every compilation that comes out, it includes something from a newer album. So this one, this goes all the way from Billy Oxygen to Gene Simmons Says Rock is Dead.
You see that? Mine came, I ordered mine with 5 custom guitar picks, each band member.
I like the stylus on here, and this is on Paris Records.
I think Brent's on the right track. I think he's on the right track.
Check him out on YouTube. Red D video. He's a very, very talented.
Yeah.
So
this is enough compilation. I mean, it's re-records, but it's good.
And it also has. I think is this the first appearance of Even Jesus Wasn't Loved in His Hometown? I think that might be.
No, I think that's on Bastard of the Blues.
Okay. I lose track. It gets
confusing because a lot of these songs have multiple lives, right?
Yeah, but this is the first physical release of Gene Simmons Says Rock is Dead, if I'm not mistaken. Which was a video.
There's a silly video for that with the guy from a Kiss cover band, local Kiss cover band, dressed as Gene, because Gene famously made that statement, and Brian wrote the song, And by the way,
why not?
A piece of trivia: Helix were the very first band to open for Kiss after the Unmasked.
That's true. After the unmasking is maybe the better
on the Pick It Up tour. Yeah. The next thing I have is from 2018, and I actually picked this up at Sunrise Records. Oh, Mike's got it. Mike's no. This.
Oh, hang on.
Now, at a certain point, Universal gobbled up EMI, so they became part of the Icon series, and I picked this up for $5 at Sunrise Records because why not? It's a new Helix release and it's on Universal. So
when does this fit in? This is in here somewhere too.
I still got to get the vinyl version of it, but I mean,
what is that?
This is The Devil Is Having a Party Tonight with the Tequila song on the B-side. Yeah, and I'm not sure where that fits into the timeline, but it's around here somewhere.
This is when did this come out?
I'm not sure. I can't find the year
now.
But there's Chris Julke drunk.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not the 2 songs are okay, but I'll tell you the reason that I bought this vinyl when I did is because I did not buy the Honeymoon Suite Hands Up EP that they put out at the end of 2016 into 2017.
No.
I bought the CD because the sticker shock kind of got to me. But it was so limited edition. I'm kicking myself for not buying it. And it wasn't too long after that, this was announced. I'm like, you know what? I better get this.
Yeah.
So, there you go. I got it.
The Tequila song's quite good. I like it a lot. But yeah, there's
it's a 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila floor.
I'm surprised that came out on vinyl. But
yeah,
we're
and
talking 2018.
I bought it from their site.
Okay, 2018. Okay, I guess it would be, but
Yeah.
But
So-
think about it. You've got that Icon series. That's the kind of stuff that they would repackage and just put into Walmart, the $5 bin.
And
You know
that's
what I mean?
great because
Well, I
that puts
know, but-
Helix. Yeah, that puts Helix in Walmart for the first time
in
you know.
decades.
But that's what it looks like, and I'm just surprised that there's an LP version of it.
I don't know, man. I just know that when I saw that for sale, I sensed, you know what, Mike, this might be something a little bit unique for your collection, so buy it. So I bought it.
The only other one I have is the Rush Icon on vinyl. But yeah, I know it kind of defeats the purpose of the series, but hey, whatever.
At least something's coming out, and
that's
it
right.
could
Yeah.
bring on new fans. Just leave it at that. So that's good.
And because it's on Universal, it's the original recordings that people know, right? And it still has a couple of the newer songs on it. So,
and you know
the
what?
next
That
things I
was the
have
right
all
place.
people-
Sorry, I was just going to say that was the right place to talk about it because the next thing that I have has those 2 songs on it. So I'm
What do
sure
I-
that's what you have next is this one, right?
I thought this came out in early 2020, but
I'm not sure. These don't
Is
have
that
years on
Eat
the
Sleep
back.
Rock?
Yeah.
What about Old School from 2019?
Perhaps that came first. I can't remember the order they came out in.
2020. So yeah, this is the very last thing.
I think it's Old School now.
So this is okay. So this is Old School came out at the same time as 2 other records.
Yeah.
Reissues.
Oh,
Yeah. So I got them all at the same time. So
Me too. And I got a letter.
Yeah, so did I. We probably ordered one right after the other. Are the orders numbered? That'd be funny if they were consecutive. But we've talked about, well, this would be the 3rd time around we've talked about this, but they put their first 2 independent albums out in 79, 81. Then they were put onto 1 CD with the early years. And then finally, aside from the fact that they did come out in like the early 90s, but they're really rare, these are the versions to get of the first 2 Helix albums because they also have extra songs on them. Each one of these has 2 extra songs on the end. So finally get good versions of these. But I will say this, what drives me up several walls, because it's so sloppy and there's no reason for it, is the damn labels are upside down. I cannot tell you how I hate it. There's no reason, no rhyme or reason for this. It takes 2 seconds to fix this.
So those, you recommend those over the twofer that came out?
Yeah,
absolutely. There's 2 extra songs on each of these.
Okay,
it's probably
And
worth
plus,
it for Sidewalk
it's like
Sally.
Plus,
great
if
song.
you got,
I got the
Breaking
twofer
Loose on CD. Yeah, I got Breaking Loose on CD. Have you got White Lace and Black Leather? Yeah, I got White Lace and Black Leather instead of. I've got the early years. I don't know. I'm weird like that.
I get it.
Because this is a thing that happens, Grant. People come over to your house to inspect your CD collections. It happens.
I've had it happen years ago.
Oh, geez.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just like
exactly.
if I can get them separate, I like to get them separate too.
That's literally the kind of thing that I thought only record store guys in the 90s did, because that's the kind of things we did.
That's what we did. We used to, I could hardly wait if someone had a party or something or a get together. I'd always have to go through their LP collection, their CD collection, and analyze what they had.
Yeah, I love doing that. It's great.
But
also around
no
the
one
same
gets
time,
together anymore, so I don't do that anymore.
This came out, which is kind of a new album, kind of not.
I like the cover on this one.
Another Brent Durner cover.
I really like this album. Now, this, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, these are
They got
old
good
songs.
reviews.
Yeah.
These are older songs.
Literally, they baked the tapes, the tape baking process in order to salvage them, to transfer them to digital so that they can, use that music.
Right.
And yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here that Paul Hackman, the late great Paul Hackman, co-wrote. And they managed to save these tapes, clean them up, finish them, and release them onto a pretty darn good sounding CD. I haven't given this one the time that it deserves. I can't remember most of these songs now, but I mean, anytime you get to resurrect an old Paul Hackman song, I'm cool with that. The guy was a talent.
And you got the last song, great ballad called "Cheers," is a Brian Balmer. Is it Paul Halligan Jr.?
Yeah. Bob Halligan.
Bob Halligan, Paul Halligan. Anyway, yeah, it's good. I need this on vinyl too. This exists on vinyl. But yeah, Brian included with this note, dear Helix fans /friend, it's talks about how these songs were put together, and it's just kind of a nice little touch, a little personal touch when you order from Brian.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is this Eat, Sleep, Rock, which is another compilation. And I guess you could say it's got, what, three songs on it.
I guess the CD debut of Tequila Song and Devil is having a party tonight because Gene Simmons was on the other
story
one.
of Helix, right?
Right. And Eat, Sleep, Rock is a new song.
That's right. That was a brand new song.
The story of Helix is interesting, and it's an acoustic thing that they used. Pardon the noise coming from my microphone here. It's something they used to open their acoustic shows. They were doing a lot of acoustic shows at the time.
Yeah.
And it sort of like tells the story of Helix through music. And you kind of play licks from those eras. And I think live, it was probably a great way to open a show. To open an album, it doesn't quite work for me. It's a almost 8-minute song acoustic opener that's mostly spoken word. Yeah. And that, take it as it may come. But Tim is incorrect, as that is not the last we have heard from Helix, because in the year 2022, they released a brand new single, which is not available physically, but it's called Brother from a Different Mother. And it's a pretty good rock song.
This is me caring about something that only exists in air.
It will come out physically on a CD at some point.
And when it does, I will buy it. Until then, I don't want to know.
So anyways, Brother from a Different Mother, I believe it's a Sean Kelly co-write, so it's going to sound good. That, and there's another song that he wrote with Sean that isn't out yet, as far as I know, called Not My Circus, Not My Clowns. They've been talking about that song for 2 years. I've been waiting for it to come out. But
yeah, it's time. I think it's time for a new. I would like to hear a brand new, all new Helix album.
Yes, like Bastard of the Blues. Put out another.
Even if it's another 9-song album like Vagabond Blues. I mean,
9 songs is a valid number of tracks for an album.
Yeah. So there you go. That's
pretty much
That's the story of Helix right there.
That is the story of Helix. We have told it.
So, okay, like I said, there are 2 other episodes down below that you could check out. Please see the whole series. It's a must. So if someone's looking in the 2000s, real quick, is there a certain comp from the 2000s you'd recommend? And then is there a certain record that you gentlemen would recommend to look if you're, pick and choosing?
I think we're unanimous.
I do that. Yeah. Just gets 21 songs on it.
Yeah. Okay. Same.
Pretty chock full, right? The CD, not the vinyl versions, only got 10 songs, and for an album, Vagabond Bones or Bastard of the Blues they're both really good.
But I think Vagabond Bones has the significant reunion aspect to it, which makes it just that much more important.
Yeah.
Excellent. Super. Well, gentlemen, I think you did it once again. That was fun. Sound effect. Let's wrap this dog up. We did it in an hour, or less than an hour. I want to thank Tim Durling and Mike Ladano for coming on tonight and talking Helix Part 3. It's wrapped.
Sorry for swearing. Sorry for.
I don't care. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you shit, Mike, on this channel. But anyway, what's coming up next? I don't know, but I can tell you this. Look for these 2 gentlemen. They have links below. Check out their channels. Please like, subscribe. A lot of great content. And grab a stack, for God's sakes. And what can I say? I want to thank you both for coming on. What a great series. Now we have to decide what other series we're going to do. Ooh. There has to be something. April Wine's over. Now Helix is over.
Kick-Axe. Let's do Kick-Axe. I got a lot of Kick-Axe.
Well, there you go. We can talk about it. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. And please like, subscribe. The whole routine. Check out these guys' channels. All right, everybody. We'll see you.
Take care.